Jesus. What the fuck's going on here? What the fuck are you all standing around for? Shit. Fuck you.
Who disrupts my coronation? Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
What's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net, otherwise known as TWIG, your flagship of stupidity. I am one of your hosts, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I trek through the impossibility that is this planet journey called Earth. I'm joined by my intrepid co-host in the lovely city of Kitchener.
Alex, the producer.
I just make half of that shit up right in the moment.
I was going to say, like, one of these days, you're going to flub it so bad, and I'm going to be here to record it, and we're going to keep it forever.
Probably. I mean, I always try and do that wonderful thing that, like, Art Bell used to do, like, from the Kingdom of Nye and blah, 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 from Lake whatever it is to this.
Might work if you had a list of a few of them to go off of, like, make some bullet points, and then just randomize it, do the whole how South Park thinks that Family Guy is produced by a bunch of, what was it? Manatees choosing random words and phrases.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of make it up, and I always think there was this Canadian DJ that existed for a number of years in the 1990s. His name was Chris Shepard. He did a thing called Chris Shepard's Pirate Radio Sessions. If you can find these things, they are wonderful.
With the weirdest sounding accent in the world, you can't quite pinpoint what it is.
Yeah, and he would be like, "Welcome everybody to the city of love from the city of Toronto. We are broadcasting from 95.3, whatever." And it would just be this wonderful exposition of like 90s Euro dance music.
And remember, it always had to have peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. You had to put a little Ringo Starr in there. And then what else was it? Was it something about your station for the generation? And it was always, everything was a flowing rhyme, and it sounded like it was made up on the spot.
Yeah, like this guy, he had such a talent and such like an energy and vibe about him. If I had to emulate anything in my career, if I was doing more music spots on radio, that'd be how I'd love to emulate. Obviously, there is only one and only Chris Shepard, but I love that energy.
He just randomly disappeared after like 2001.
Yeah, I think he became like a college professor or something like that.
Who knows? He's been off radio forever. Like he was the original dude that like would release mixtapes of like all the house and EDM artists, and every one of his CDs, which were wildly popular in Canada. I don't know how far they went anywhere else. He always had an intro song that would just be him like introing the CD as if it was one of his radio sessions. So he'd give that, and then usually at the end of the CD he'd come in and close out the CD for you and move on. Closest thing to it now would probably be Armin van Buuren's State of Trance, where he broadcast a State of Trance, and he will introduce it and do that. Only this was done entirely in rhyme. He would do everything. He'd come out, do his sort of singing rhyme thing and introduce it, and then get going and mix stuff randomly left and right. And that was his shows from Toronto for years.
Yeah, like it's amazingly good stuff. You should track this stuff down, be it on YouTube or if you're really or eBay.
Easiest stuff to find, where like description we're talking about, are the pirate radio sessions. Some people have them on YouTube, as well as Groove Station. I think it was Groove Stations 1 through 6 had him doing intros for them.
Yep. So This is not all we're going to talk about this week, because obviously we
No.
have news, reviews, and so much more. But as you guys know, I had a pretty big personal announcement about a month ago where I was talking about taking up my adoptive name, or giving it up rather. So no longer known as Dodd, only professionally online in all my social media and all my branding and whatever.
Because Birdman Dodd sounds easier to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
It just
and
easier.
you've got like 12 years of establishment, or 14 years or whatever now.
Yeah. So I took on my mother's birth name of Ashkui, and that's who I am in my personal life. And then we're kind of working through some of the details there. One of the other things I have talked about over the years on the show, if you've been a long time listener since 2007 and beyond, is I've talked about the fact that I am adopted. I was adopted back in 1981. My mother, Kim, gave me up for adoption to a pair of family named John and Marie, who also adopted my mother, Kim, when she was very young, because my mother had me when she was a teenager. One part of this equation that has always been missing is who my father is. And this week, thanks to my lovely sister Katie and Ancestry.com.
Who, by the way, you didn't know existed until a couple months ago.
Yeah, I didn't know Katie existed until August of this year. And then we started talking in September. And then we met in the end of September before everything got all screwy with COVID again. So we started doing some research. Now, Katie is a bit of a genealogy expert. She's been researching family lines and doing all this thing, talking with tons of third and fourth cousins, gathering a lot of info. And this week she hit pay dirt. She contacted a family member out in Calgary, and she says, "Hey, my name is Katie. Here's my story. I'm looking for some information. Do you know anything?" She's like, "Yes, I do." And we're like, holy shit. So a number of conversations happened, and I posted on my Twitter a couple of days ago that I may have some information regarding all this and things. I might have some real answers about this. And I expected information to come out in like a week, maybe two. No, I was wrong. Information came out in a matter of hours. So from that initial conversation, I think on like Tuesday or Wednesday of this past week, I get talking with Katie. She's like, "Mike, I got something to tell you." And I'm like, "Well, what?" "I got our dad's name. I've got his face. I was right." And we thought for a long time, when me and Katie started talking, that our dad's name was David. And we'd heard that name mentioned before, but we weren't 100% certain, because anybody who could verify it had passed away. Like Katie's mom had passed away, my mom had passed away, and we didn't have any real connection with that side of the family, since our adoption records aren't exactly full of information. However, we were able to talk with this member of the family, who then put us in contact with my father's sister, who then confirmed it, gave us a picture of our dad circa 1984, which is around when Katie was born and a couple years after I was. Yeah, so after 39 years, I know what my father looks like. I know that he's alive, and I know his name is David, and I know where he lives, and I understand there is a possibility of a conversation happening at some point. He does know, I think he knows now, that me and Katie are alive. He knows of us. And if that isn't the most 2020 thing to ever happen, I don't know what is. I mean, obviously, it's not bad news. Everybody that I've talked to from that side of the family seems remarkably chill, remarkably welcoming, so nothing weird or anything. It was just... I didn't expect to find answers, because I'd always said on this show, I don't know where I come from. I know that I know I'm greater than the sum of my parts. And for all I know, my dad is Superman. And I just assumed for many, many, many years, I didn't have a father. And obviously, that's a title you have to earn. And right now, I know the person I share half of my DNA with, his name is David. And will I get to have anything beyond a conversation? I don't know. And that's okay, because we're both adults. I'm almost in my 40s. Katie's in her mid 30s. We're both adults. We just want to say hi, hello. We're not looking for money. We just want to say hi. And what happens beyond that is anybody's guess. So, yeah, that's news that I woke up to and been trying to wrap my head around ever since. And it's not bad news. I mean, it's great to know these things finally after so many years, to have that news just dropped on you, and to find a long lost sister, and after so long I find my dad. I mean, this is the type of shit you write fucking the W Network movies about. This stuff doesn't happen to people like that. No.
but everybody, if you write those movies, they all, Lifetime and W Network, everybody would have to be like Channing Tatum looking, though.
Yeah, exactly. Instead, you get this one-legged Indian dork,
or it would be Channing Tatum with a digitally removed leg.
Don't I wish? But yeah, it's
Channing. What was it from? Channing Tate Yum.
But yeah, it's just it's so weird. It's so mixed emotions, because I remember talking with you that night. You're like, this is a lot to take in. I'm thinking, yeah, you think? And it wasn't that I was upset. I was more like in shock that after 39 years, I've got answers. And there's a possibility of more answers coming. And I'm not going to be that guy that says, why did you give me up? I'm like, no, you were young. You were with my mom, who is obviously very young. I don't blame you. I'm not mad at you. Not at all.
I mean, that's not something I've ever been involved in. Like, there's not been a situation like I've always known where I came from. I feel like the vast majority of listeners might not be really able to relate in the exact same way, but understand that it's such a monumental thing to, you're putting together a piece of your history. Like, it's literally like your life is a puzzle and you were always missing one or two corner pieces. And now that you have that corner piece, all the other ones are going to start to fit in.
Yeah, because like it's a whole new side of the family to get to know now. Like, I've talked with some people. I'm not going to mention their names because I don't know how comfortable they are just yet, but they seem remarkably cool, remarkably welcoming. Actually after the show here, I'll probably drop them a message like, say, hey man, how's your going? I hope your Sunday/Monday's going all right. Just hope you're doing okay. Looking forward to talking with you more over the holidays. Can I send you a Christmas card? Because one of them actually did say at one point, I would like to meet you and Katie and get to know you. So,
and you know what? Nowadays with like video calling and everything, you can actually do that without having to make the big trek.
Yeah, I mean, we live in an era of Zoom and other communications. Just, it's so remarkably easy to connect across a variety of devices and spaces that we live in an unprecedented era of reconnecting people. And I never thought I'd see an end to this story. But as I said last month on the show, one chapter ends, another begins. And I've only begun to uncover some proofs in all this. And before I pass it over to you, I was talking with my sister Katie. She's very interested in tracing our genealogy through England and stuff like that, as like England, Scotland, and Ireland. Turns out we have some Viking blood in us, and we tie to some fairly significant pieces of history. So that's pretty cool. So I'll have to talk with her more, because she she can quote you when shit happens. I'm like, cool, who was there? Why does it matter? Because I don't get it. And she can tell you everything about it. So incredibly cool stuff. So I have dominated this conversation for entirely too long. How's your week been?
Different than that, to say the least. It's mostly been setting up streaming and getting things going with playing Immortals Phoenix Rising. Now that we figured out that, hey, streaming's pretty darn easy on the PS5, way, way, way better than Xbox. Xbox is just, as powerful as that system is, their streaming capabilities are so nerfed that it's just broken, doesn't work. Unless you want to do 480p with dark picture that you can't change or alter or do anything with, or pay like $500 for a decent capture device that you use as a third party thing. PS5, it just kind of works. I had to turn it down to 720p 60 because I found out that the frame rate was a little more consistent with the output, as well as here's a weird thing. You'd figure that outputting 1080p 60 video, that it would encode it with a high bit rate. It actually uses a higher bit rate at 720p, meaning that not only is it using more detail per the pixels, it's actually a more consistent quality overall. So I'm just going to leave everything at 720p 60 because it gives it a much better picture. So that's been experimenting. Found out that I can use my podcasting sound card, XLR mic, and headphones with the PS5 by just plugging it in, and it works. So I think streaming from TWIG will basically be done through the PS5 until further notice.
Yeah, I'm because me and Alex share a very similar podcasting rig. I'm going to be looking into this in the future. So I just ordered some cables because I have to sit so far back from my PS5. So I am going to be doing this too. We're going to be testing it in the month of December with official streams, like big things coming in January. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to doing it. I'm really sad the Xbox doesn't work because I would love to have streamed all my COD sessions.
I'm sure there'll be a Twitch update. There'll be a system update. But as it is right now, like it didn't work. And it's not me. It wasn't like I was stupid or confused or didn't get it working. I talked to a few other people and they're like, yeah, it doesn't work. Like clearly when they took Mixer out of their entire platform, they nerfed anything that worked with it. And people that are putting out videos from it are clearly using like an Elgato. And like, why would I want to do that when technically the Series X is more powerful than my PC? It should be able to just do it. Whereas the PS5 is like, yeah, sure. You want to use the camera? Sure. You want to have it autofocus in your face and erase the background? Sure. You want to use your existing mic setup from your PC? Just plug it in and it works automatically. Okay, like that's how you do it. So it's going to be interesting. Probably stream a little more of Phoenix Rising before we do our final review together. I'll have a shorter prototype tomorrow, or maybe later today as this airs, with our first impressions, and we'll see from there. It's going to be interesting, but that's sort of been what my week's been like. That, and I'm slowly getting my Christmas present situation sorted out because I realize I won't be going down to visit family like I usually do in Scarborough just because they're in lockdown mode. Whereas my father is going to go and on the family's behalf stay for basically a month to help my grandma because she lives alone with nobody there really going to be coming by for Christmas or anything. She could really use the help, and they're both sort of isolated anyway. So, it'll work out for that. So I'm going to be picking up some Christmas presents, wrapping them up, and I'm going to be making my way to the post office and shipping them out in the next week so that I guarantee that a few of my cousins, my grandma, and a couple other people will get presents, as well as I'm going to do something I haven't done since I was a kid. I'm going to be sending out some Christmas cards to people just because it's nice to get something in the mail nowadays. And if I can't be there for Christmas, you may as well get a card.
It's a good plan. It's a solid and safely socially distanced plan.
Exactly. Well, not to mention if I mail it early, and somebody receives it, they receive it like the first week of December. And if you're really paranoid about whose hands touched what or anything, you can let that card sit on your desk for 3 weeks before you have to open it for Christmas.
Yeah. So we have plans. You have plans. I like it. So anyway, guys, we have a lot to cover in the show. We have some sad news to talk about off the top of the nerd news segment as a person has passed away in the Star Wars community. We will talk about that a little bit more. But we also have stuff coming to you from all around the world of entertainment, some Canadian stuff, and a bizarre thing that has been found or not in the state of Utah. We will be talking about all that and more right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. But before we go any further, here is my review of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity on the Nintendo Switch. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
The history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages.
I think you are now ready. Ready to hear what happened 100 years ago.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to check out a game I got sent to us for review from Nintendo Canada. I'm talking about Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity on the Nintendo Switch. Now, it has been a long time since I've played a Legend of Zelda game. I didn't get Link's Awakening until very recently, thanks Black Friday, and I didn't really dig into Breath of the Wild too much, as just that period of my life just really wasn't into those type of games. But after playing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, I'm a little bit more interested in checking this out. So what this game is, this is a prequel to Breath of the Wild, set approximately about 100 years before that game's events take place, and you take control of Zelda and her friends like Empa, who is my favorite character in the game, Link, Daruk, I think his name is, and all these other characters from all the different regions of Hyrule, and you have to stop this plot involving time travel and raising Calamity Ganon, as I think the main bad guy's name. It's always Ganon, let's be real here. And it's a surprisingly fun time. Now, the last Dynasty Warrior style game I played was probably like Dynasty Warriors Gundam 3 on the PlayStation 3, so it's been a while. And I really didn't play the original Hyrule Warriors too much when it originally came out on, I think it was the Wii U, and I think I had it for like my 3DS or something. So playing this was a real breath of fresh air, honestly, in 2020, because if you've been following the show, you know this week has been anything but calm. But this was actually a surprisingly chill and fun experience, despite the fact you're killing thousands of bad guys with just a couple of button presses. And what I got out of here was a multi-hour experience. Like, you can beat this game in a couple of days, but there's a lot of like replay values to go back and unlock everything, do all the side quests, get all the recipes, and get all the little hidden kind of doodads in this game. I found this game surprisingly likable. Like, there wasn't a whole lot to this game that I didn't like. I mean, if I did have a small complaint, is some of the characters you play as, some of their mechanics need a little bit more explaining than what they give you in the game. I will admit, I did have to look up a character guide on how to properly use some of my abilities right in combat. Like, I primarily focused on Zelda, Empa, and Link in my playthrough there, but once I maxed out Empa, I was like throwing some Naruto bullshit like every couple of seconds, to the point where I was melting bosses before they could even land any real hits against me. Plus the fact I could parry and dodge super quickly, so most of their attacks really weren't hitting me. And then, oh yeah, you can drive giant mechs, these like divine beast-like things in certain stages of the game, so you could be throwing like giant ice lasers or like rock cannons or like magma rain. It's really kind of nutty. And I don't know, just there's so much about this game that I didn't expect to take me in the directions that it did, but I had fun. I really, really had fun with this. And it's one of those Nintendo Switch games that I'm actually going to go out on a limb for and say this is probably worth full price. I mean, if you know what to expect from these Dynasty Warriors hack and slash style games, then you know exactly the type of gameplay you're going to get. Like, here's a field of enemies, here's a few bosses, here's some outposts, clear them, or here's an objective, complete it before the time runs out, or whatever happens. Either way, you gotta strategically play with your time. Now, I did play this game on a lower difficulty because I really wanted to see the story, because, as I mentioned, I don't know a lot about Breath of the Wild, but I'm more interested now than I have been in several years. So I would love to get Breath of the Wild for my Nintendo Switch now that I've played this, and I'm looking forward to going back and experiencing the different missions with like different characters. Like, Imp is fun, but playing Link with a giant spear or a sword is even a little bit cooler. There's even a guy who looks like Falco from Star Fox. I think his name's Rivali, I think it is, and he's like a Rito or something. He's like a bird person. And I really like him with like his bow attack. That Daruk guy, I think his name is, with his giant sword. There's this Lady Urbosa, I think it is, and she throws lightning. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff to unlock to later on. Even some characters I didn't think you could play as. So yeah, this game is really worth it. I had a lot of fun with it. So you should check this out, be it digital or physical. You can get this almost anywhere. Do check it out. So that's Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity on the Nintendo Switch. A review code was provided to us right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek News.
Welcome back to This Week in Geek, otherwise known as the flagship of stupidity. I'm still Mike the Birdman. He's Alex, the producer. Let's talk about the things that happened around the planet Earth this past week. And we're going to start things off, unfortunately, in a galaxy far, far away, where unfortunately one has become one with the Force. Hopefully that's not too tasteless. But unfortunately, David Prowse, the actor who played Darth Vader, has died at the age of 85. Prowse was cast as Vader for his imposing physique, even though the role was voiced by James Earl Jones. But the weightlifter turned actor was most proud of playing Green Cross Codeman, the role promoting road safety in the UK, earning him a MBE. May the Force be with him always, said his agent Thomas Ballington. Though famous for playing many monsters for myself and for all who knew Dave and worked with him, he was a hero in our lives. Mr. Ballington called the actor's death after a short illness a truly and deeply heart-wrenching loss for all of us and millions of fans all over the world. Mark Hamill, who also played Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars movies, said he was so sad to hear the news. He was a kind man and much more than Darth Vader, Hamill said on Twitter. He loved his fans as much as they loved him. Star Wars co-star and fellow Briton Anthony Daniels, who played C-3PO in 11 of the 12 Star Wars installments, played tribute to Prowse's contribution in the epic series. Dave's iconic figure dominated the finished film in 1977 and has done so ever since, he wrote on Twitter on Sunday. The family of the late actor Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca alongside Prowse Vader, posted a picture of the pair with R2-D2 actor Kenny Baker, who died in 2016. I hope you're up there sharing a pint and a story with the boys, said the tweet posted by the Peter Mayhew Foundation. Doctor Who star John Barrowman recalled how Prowse got me into shape for a stage role for the musical Matador. Dave was a huge part of our con family. His smile will be missed, he added, referencing the star's popular presence at fan conventions. Meanwhile, Mayor of Bristol Marvin Rees hailed Prowse's Bristol roots and his legacy, a Bristol man and alongside of Why Don't You, #Grange Hill, part of our 70s and 80s childhoods, he wrote. Prowse's early career was an actor spanning 50 years, but it was his role as the Sith Lord in Star Wars that brought him international fame. Unfortunately, his West Country accent was not deemed suitable for the part of a menacing Hollywood villain, and his lines were dubbed. However, Prowse was a definitive presence in all three of the early films, thanks to his hulking 6'6" frame, honed by his weightlifting skills, which saw him represent England at the Commonwealth Games in the early 1960s. And then it just kind of goes on to talk about his career. I actually met Prowse at a fan expo probably 2008, 2009, and I tried to get an interview with him, but at that same convention, I did get an interview very briefly with Tamura Morrison and Daniel Logan, who played Jango and Boba Fett respectively. Prowse was a nice guy, but he declined the interview, guys. He just wasn't feeling it. He looked really tired, would be the best way to put it then, but he would have been in his late 70s at that point. So, or actually not late 70s, I guess 60s, I guess, because my math is terrible. But he didn't look well at the time. And doing these conventions, especially Toronto Fan Expo, is an exhausting experience, to say the very least. But I always saw him at conventions. And then later, through a random series of connections and trades, I had won a Thor, the Dark World Hot Toys figure from Sideshow Collectibles about 2012. And Thor, the Dark World, is not great. But a guy that I knew was looking for trades, and I said, well, I have this Thor Hot Toys, and I'm not the biggest fan of that movie. So I'm like, what do you have? Well, I have this David Prowse signed Star Wars VOTC collection, Darth Vader figure sealed in plastic. And it was from the vintage collection, which I think was 2008. So it had the superposability. It's one of the nicest Darth Vader figures they've ever put out. So you got me there. And he had it signed at Fan Expo a couple of years ago. And I'm thinking, you know what? This thing didn't cost me anything. This thing is worth at least $100 to $150. Sure, why not? So I did a trade, and for a number of years, I had my own David Prowse action figure, and I traded that off a couple of years ago to pay some bills. Probably, I think I sold it for money for my wheelchair. What the hell was that?
What?
You hear that?
No.
Okay. Sorry, folks. To break the immersion of this story, all I heard was, oh!
I have no idea what that was.
Oh, man, that was weird. I don't know what that was. That was strange.
It might have been like, I guess, maybe Mike Echo on the internet?
I guess, or the David Prowse stopped talking about me.
Well, was he the one that was an asshole?
No, the one who was an
Chewbacca's
asshole.
an asshole, right?
No, it was Ernest Borgnine's agent and the
No, I was
sheriff.
gonna say, I thought one of the original Star Wars people was considered an asshole at conventions.
Anthony Daniels, I hear, is not great, if I'm recalling that right.
Is that Chewbacca or is that C-3PO?
That is C-3PO. Yeah.
I could see it. Okay.
So yeah, that was a thing. Yeah, it was so weird. I don't even know how to explain that sound. I hope it shows up in the recording.
It probably will.
I hope so. Yeah, the person who's been the rudest to me at a convention was the guy who played the sheriff in The Devil's Rejects, and I can't recall his name. But fuck that guy in the ass if you're out there, man. You were the rudest motherfucker I've ever dealt with. And Ernest Borgnine's wife was kind of a bitch too. Because Ernest wanted to do the interview, but she was like, no.
Heard that she was pretty controlling.
Well,
like there had been rumors about to put it lightly, taking advantage of.
Oh, that's
by her. That happens with a lot of these older people where they have like a younger spouse, or even not maybe necessarily younger, but ones that are in charge of them. You hear about that. Like, remember all the rumors about Stan Lee? Yeah,
which he was a nice guy. I met him once, very, very briefly. I think at the same Fan Expo actually, and I was going backwards through the media area. And I had a chance to say hi and hello. And once again, he looked so tired. But when he saw me and my crew's eyes meet his, he lit up and said, hi, hello, how are you? He was just that guy. When he knew he had to be on, he was on. Whereas when I met Prowse, I could just tell he was tired. And I do not hold that against him in the very least. Because doing conventions, I've done a few as a member of the media, and I've done a few as being a guest. It gets tiring, and I don't say that as anything against the community. It's just, it's a lot to be on for that long. And especially if you're an older gentleman and you have to travel all the time, I could see that being a really exhausting experience.
I know a friend of mine met Stan at in a bathroom. And it's not as bad as you sound. It was just at a convention, right? And they said he was the nicest guy. It's like, usually you think you'd be a celebrity awkward in like you meet somebody while you're washing your hands. And they're like, no, he's like super nice. So you know, it's one of those sorts of situations. It's sad to see a lot of these guys go, but 85, right? Like it's
a good life.
85 for that generation is old for men.
Yeah.
You know, that generation, the average age of a man, life expectancy was like 70 to 74. Now it's about 78. They're saying the next, like our parents' generation, as long as there's not underlying health issues, it's like 95. And they're saying that people born after 1980, if there's no underlying health issues, you and I aren't making it to 100. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh no.
Unless something dramatically changes in the health system.
Cybernetics, baby.
But the millennial generation and younger, their life expectancy, I was watching on CBC's The National, they were saying that 104.
Wow.
That over 50% of everybody born since 1985 will live to be 104 on average. There's not going to be a lot of space for all these people, but you know, like I'm saying, that, you know, 104 now is like what 85 was to that generation.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a good life.
Yeah, definitely something to be remembered. He will be immortalized on film forever, and as a terrifying Sith Lord, but also a guy who genuinely cherished his fans. So I'm going to change the order of our stories here, because I realized the one I was going to follow with this one might be a little dark. Kind of funny, but a little dark. So we're going to switch things up to talk about a local story, in essence. This story comes courtesy of the Calgary Herald, and the Fraggle Rock reboot is to begin production at the Calgary Film Centre. Jim Henson's cave-dwelling, radish-loving Fraggles have taken over the Calgary Film Centre. Post Media has confirmed that the latest chapter of the Henson's 1980s puppet TV series will be filmed entirely in studio at the center. Sets are currently being built and cameras are set to roll in mid-January. The production is operating under the working title Ralphanas, which is in Latin for radish. It's a co-production between the Jim Henson Company, Apple TV, and New Regency Productions. We're seeing designs that are top drawer of a genre that we've never seen here before, said Tom Benz, a business agent for the Film Workers Union. All these numbers. It's animatronics, it's puppeteering, it's something we've not had before. It's certainly not location driven. What can be said is that they are here for the skill set and the business environment. It's not about mountains or badlands. It's unclear how many local workers will be hired, but it's a major production that will be in town until late May or early June. Sources confirm the series has taken over all three of the sound stages at the $28.2 million Film Center, which is owned by the City of Calgary and operated by the Calgary Economic Development. Apple TV unveiled several shorts entitled Fraggle Rock On in April before signing a deal with the Jim Henson Company for an official reboot of the children's classic. The shorts featured the original characters, including Gobo, Red, Boober, Wembley, and Uncle Traveling Matt. The initial 6 minisodes were 5 minutes long and featured special guests such as Alanis Morissette, Come On, Jason Mraz, and Neil Patrick Harris. The storyline has been focused on social distancing and friendship. According to Deadline.com, Fraggle Rock On was shot on iPhones from the homes of the production team. According to Variety, all 6 episodes were written by John Tragalia, a puppeteer who works at the Jim Henson Company. The Wrap reports that the new Calgary shot season will consist of full-length episodes. Matt Fussfield and Alex Cuthbertson will have written...
So it's not those like 5 to 10 minute shorts. It's like full 22-minute.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And the people
like a real show that people will actually want to watch instead of these 5-minute clips that all these internet shows are doing now.
Because I guess it's cheap, I guess. So
because they realized Quibi died and they can't attempt to do something similar.
Yeah, they're not going to repeat the mistake that is Jeffrey Katzenberg. So
I still think that's a Russian money laundering scheme.
It really wouldn't surprise me if it all comes out in the books that there was some creative accounting. So according to this, the people who wrote this have written for New Girl and American Dad, and they're serving as showrunners. Lisa Henson, the daughter of Jim, will be among the executive producers, and original Fraggle Rock puppeteers Dave Golias and Karen Prell have also signed on to the series. The original show was created by Jim Henson, who passed away in 1990 and ran for 5 seasons beginning in 1983.
Didn't they save his head?
Jim Henson's head?
Or was
Walt Disney?
Walt Disney. Okay.
It also spawned a number of spin-offs, including a Saturday morning cartoon, which is the one I remember in 1987. In 2014, Hulu aired a computer animated spin-off called The Doozers, and the original series won an Emmy in 1983. I think this is cool. I really do. Fun fact, my sister-in-law Kara's, all of her animals are named after Fraggles. There's Wembley and Gobo were Blair and Kara's childhood cats who passed away a couple of years ago. She has Marjorie the trash heap. She had Uncle Traveling Matt, who passed away last year of a heart attack. And now she has Oscar, who's not named after a Fraggle, but he's a little cute kitty. So yeah.
Isn't he named after
being found in a dumpster?
Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because he was found in a dumpster.
Still a Muppet, technically.
Yeah. So I think this is cool. I think it'll be really interesting to see how much local talent is like hired for this. And I watched the Muppet minisodes.
It's going to be a lot of Canadian and local talent because they got to get that CanCon money. First of all, they got to meet the content. I think they've loosened it a little bit, but they're going to want to get all them tax credits
as much as they possibly can. And with the advances in technology, plus, we're not the United States and on fire right now.
They can actually produce a proper season without shutting down.
Yeah. So, and when half your coworkers are puppets, what are you going to do? So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be cool. I think the minisodes are worth checking out if you have Apple Plus.
Oh, absolutely. It's just that they were releasing them week by week, and it's not worth waiting a week for 5 minutes.
No, it's really not.
Now that you can binge the whole thing, do it.
Yeah, so that'll be something for us to check out. Like I said, if they're working till mid to May to early June, my guess is we'll see this series next fall.
Yeah, the kind of show that it is doesn't require a ton of post-production. It'll be some ADR stuff, obviously, because puppetry. But like other than some animated little bits and baps here and there, little interstitial things, if they go until May or June, they'll be ready with the whole season by September, like for back to school.
Yeah, and I think that'll be great. So looking forward to more Fraggles on our TVs rather soon. Okay, so this next story I think is kind of nice. I think it's definitely a sign of the times, especially the way the world is right now. But according to TheVerge.com, Square Enix announces permanent work-from-home policy for most employees in Japan. It expects 80% of employees to be working from home next month. Square Enix, the studio behind Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and Tomb Raider games, it says it'll allow most employees in Japan to work from home permanently. The policy comes into effect December 1st, and we'll see its employees designated as either home-based or office-based in its announcement. The company says it expects around 80% of its employees to be designated home-based from December. The company tells The Verge that the policy is specific for its offices in Japan. The company gives a number of reasons for making the policy permanent. These include creating a flexible and diverse working environment, helping employees achieve the optimal work-life balance, and helping bolster productivity. It also hopes the policy will help it better adapt to the future, whether it's to disasters or just to new employee morale. Although employees will be sorted into home-based and office-based, it sounds like they'll have some flexibility where they work. Being home-based means an employee works from home for at least 3 days a week on average, or vice versa for those office-based workers. Employees can change their status on a monthly basis and are involved in the discussion about where their role should be based. Some employees will need to be based in office, depending on the work they're doing, Square Enix says. The company says it first implemented its first work-from-home policy in February in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, alongside other initiatives like staggering work hours, online conferencing, and it adds 80% of its employees said they have a positive view of working from home when surveyed. Finally, the article concludes Square Enix joins an expanding list of companies which have pledged to continue to allow many employees to work from home, even after it's no longer necessary on health grounds. Twitter announced that its permanent work from home policy in May, while Facebook said up to half of its employees could be working remotely permanently within 5 to 10 years. Microsoft made a similar announcement last month.
This is good. Google's already been doing this for years.
Yeah, because I think we know someone. I don't know whether we want to disclose the.
No, my brother works there. I've mentioned it before.
Okay.
They had for years now policies, and this is company wide, where if you were not feeling good or if the weather was bad, like if it was snowing or all you had to do was say I'm working from home today, and they were cool with that. Their policy was just get your work done. They don't care. They'd rather you be safe at home than do it there. Like you don't obviously get any perks that you would normally do if there's like company lunches or different things when you're working from home. But a company like that can save a lot of capital by not having to have every office open. And a lot of them now, when they switch to work from home, like I think it's just security in the offices, no managers or anything. They're completely remote. But a company like Square, the people working in the office will be the high up executives.
Maybe artists.
No, the artists will they'll all work from home as long as they have the equipment to do so, or they're giving them with this work order the ability to work from home. It's going to probably be high level meetings where they're talking about strategy, where like team leads from each of the teams will probably have to work mostly from the office. Anybody that is dealing with secret information that is not released to the public yet, I would assume final test build people, like when it comes to play testers, they'll want you in the office because they're not going to want a play tester to take a copy home before it goes out to beta. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to want they'll have people coming in to do testing. They'll have management meetings. They'll probably do, like they're saying, 3 days a week at home. And then where they're going to come in, it'll be like you come in Tuesday and Friday for meetings or something. They'll do something like that where it's to do that. And they weren't really equipped, most Japanese companies, to work from home, because unless you were a streamer, you really didn't have a home set up the same way. The only thing that I see being problematic here is how small their apartments are. If you have, let's say you have a small family you're starting already there, right? And you're working from home. Well, what if there's 2 people working from home? You might not have 2 spaces to have 2 separate offices in your apartment. You also, in some cases, may not even have fast enough internet at home. Even though you'd think that they're super advanced, not everybody does. Everybody has cell phones, but very few people have like gigabit Ethernet in Japan. It's just, you don't run wires like that. It's a home life is a Wi-Fi centric life. Offices are all wired up. So I'm assuming what took them this long is that they had to make sure that the infrastructure was capable of handling that amount of people working from home, when Japan is still set up in such a way that businesses are wired, homes are usually wireless, right? So think about the amount of Wi-Fi traffic going on in apartment buildings in Japan now that wasn't there before, for like the high amount of data being passed for. So I get it. They probably realized, hey, let's do this. And you know what probably precipitated it? That announcement they made about how much money they lost on Avengers, how they're literally lost $400 million in that quarter, and they said it's entirely because of that game. There's other things too, but they're probably going, oh shoot, if we don't have them coming into work, we can literally close down we could literally shut down multiple floors of a building, or write off tax. I don't know how their tax system works, but make it so that they're not having to have the facilities open. Or if their work, I don't know if they offered lunches or coffee and everything, every penny counts. They may be able to recuperate in the next quarter $100 million of just not having capital costs across the entire country.
I mean,
so they could be doing that. And then they could also then realize, hey, since we're sectioning off our company into pods anyway, this is the Final Fantasy pod, this is this. They may require people to come in that are home-based in crunch time, the equivalent of that. I don't know if they do a lot of crunch in their companies, but, like the home stretch, like we have a month before it goes gold. Now everybody comes in to work. But for the next, or you come into work in cycles. Maybe this team, this month, the Final Fantasy team's in. This month, we've got the Tomb Raider team in, that sort of stuff, whatever they're doing. So I think it's a good move, and it's a bold move. I haven't heard of any of the other very large companies saying that they're doing that. I don't think Nintendo is really. Like remember how much trouble they had just like when Sakurai wanted to do the what was it, the Smash Direct from home, and they're like, we're not set up for it. They had to mail him cameras and everything because they're not set up like this. These are millionaires who didn't have
basic
webcam.
web stuff. Yeah, I mean, like, just strut your ass down the Best Buy. You'll be back
Well,
in 20 minutes.
Like they were worried that he wouldn't learn how to, like, he taught himself how to use them, but I'm like, you guys are multi-millionaires and you've never used web conferencing before, except maybe in a web conference room to connect to an American thing. No, and then I thought that was normal. No, they used to just, like, if they, you know how they have IDOS Montreal, they would fly over somebody for a meeting instead of doing streaming.
That's so wasteful.
Because they still have a lot of the 80s mentality in how they do things. Secretive. Well, and I get the whole idea of if you fly somebody over, there's no chance of somebody hacking in and getting your stream and seeing what you're talking about. I get it. But who's to stop you from having phone calls tapped? You know, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, they're finally moving forward. And if Square Enix says they're going to do this publicly the way they did, you might start seeing things like
Activision, EA.
Well, they probably already have in the West. We're talking in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
The next company you'll probably say something. It wouldn't be Nintendo, because Nintendo, you know, is so secretive about everything they do. They won't say it. The next one would be Sega Atlas, and then you'd see the next one would be Bandai Namco, and then from there it trickles down to everybody else. So Square always likes to be, I guess, the leader of the new wave of things.
Maybe
and,
Capcom.
They barely even have a functioning, you know, it's just they're like a few little studios. They're not the same size they used to be, right? So I would assume they probably already are, but they might not want to mention it. So because Japanese companies, they're afraid probably of what the shareholders are going to say, right? Well, if Square is confident enough in saying that they're going to be doing work from home orders for permanently, and when they say permanent, they don't mean like just to the end of the pandemic. They mean this is going to be a company-wide policy probably forever, that you can choose to just work from home. New employees will probably have to come in and be trained with a team in the office and learn about the culture and all that. They'll probably have to come in when somebody new joins the company and joins your team, so that you can get to know everybody, you know, greetings and all that, be polite, and then you'll work from home. So they're finally westernizing by force, basically. So we'll see how this affects development cycles. But if they're saying that they're ready to go, that means that it's not going to affect the timelines of Final Fantasy or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a fantastic move. Hopefully we'll see more studios do this. And that'll be better for game development and better for people, and a hell of a lot safer.
It's a lot harder to crunch somebody. You can't micromanage them when they're sitting at home.
Yeah, and you know what? If it means a better working environment, if it means my game comes out a few months later,
yeah,
I'm good with it.
As much as I would love Final Fantasy 16 to get come out like November of this coming year, as it's sort of been teased that they're far enough along that it may actually come out in 2021. If they said they had to wait till March or April,
whatever,
I'd be like, okay. And then I'd be like, just tease us with like, in the meantime, release a PS5 version of Final Fantasy 7, you know, with like an unlocked frame rate or something. You know, give us something that's really easy to put out now, just to tie us over.
Yeah, or just give us a little piece of DLC or something.
Because it would be simple enough. Like that game, it's not like they'd have to build it from the ground up. They've already got the code ready, right? And it's right now it's locked to depending on the mode, I think it's 60 is the target. No, I think it's 30 target for the whole thing. So, you know, unlock it. Give us 120 FPS on the new systems if you can support it. You know, give us some more flash stuff. Add some, you know, ray tracing lighting in there. You know, make us want to replay Final Fantasy 7 all over again until the next games come out. They can do that. They have a lot of back catalog they can work on. They've already announced a few things, like they're
Neo,
doing
I think it is.
Neo, which is the sequel to World Ends With You. And it's console based. It's not a mobile game that they're porting over like they've been doing for 90% of their catalog lately. And they're building a brand new remake. Well, I guess new in terms of newish remake from the ground up of Saga Frontier 1, which was a PS1 game that's coming out next summer. They've already got a hard date ready for it, meaning it's probably well enough along that we can expect stuff. So they are going to stagger stuff out. We've got they've got the Bravely Default 2 coming out in, I think, February now. So it looks like we're going to get from them one game a quarter. So they've got their timeline down. So then now it makes sense for them to announce that. So they've put everybody else, you know, on warning. Every other studio in Japan, start announcing your stuff like this. Be prepared.
So Good news for everybody involved. All right, so our final story this week, and this one, I swear to God, this has happened like 3 times before, but according to comicbook.com, we'll see if this one sticks. The Undertaker has now officially retired from the WWE, and fans are sad as hell to hear about it. As advertised in the week leading up to the WWE Survivor Series pay-per-view event, The Undertaker officially gave his final farewell following the end of the event. With this final farewell, several of his old compatriots showed up to pay one final tribute to the dead man. It's been 30 years of Undertaker, and in his speech, Mark Calloway confirmed that he was putting the Undertaker to rest. With one final entrance, exit, and a surprise cameo, Undertaker retired for good. But with this retirement being official and even being led by an unemotional speech by Vince McMahon himself, fans of the WWE universe were definitely emotional as well. Bidding goodbye to one of the most influential figures in the WWE overall and the last bastion of the classic kayfabe days, this is truly the end of an era for many fans. Unfortunately, there was no final swerve as many had been hoping. It's legitimately the end of the dead man. Read on to see blah, blah, blah. It's just a bunch of people talking.
I still call bullshit. There will be an appearance when crowds are back. They did this because it was 30 years to the day when he premiered.
Oh, for some reason, I thought he appeared at Hell in a Cell, but you're right. It was Survivor Series.
Hell in a Cell was created for him. Hell in a Cell is where they premiered Kane. The brother, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. It was in poor taste because there's no crowd.
Yeah, that's about the big thing for me.
Also, they brought out people he knew that were friends of his, and they said nothing. They all came out and then disappeared so that Vince McMahon could announce them. And Vince McMahon looked like Vince McMahon's grandma. He looks deflated. They covered him in like an inch thick of makeup. He looks ill. Very, very. He doesn't look like the boisterous Vince McMahon we knew from even when he showed up on wrestling when we were watching. Remember when he came out a couple years ago and he was all muscled up still?
Yeah.
He looks deflated.
You don't think he's got COVID or anything, do you?
I think he's got old man is dying is what he's got.
Ugh.
And I think he's got a bad case of the old man won't admit he's old and feeble. It sounds feeble because he can't admit that he's weak. He's got a case of looking at him is explaining exactly why we stopped watching wrestling last year.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate because I think the Undertaker deserved if his final match, like, and I'm glad it wasn't that one at WrestleMania where he left his hat and gloves in the ring. Because what the fuck was that?
That with Roman Reigns or something?
And I was like,
and I'm glad it's not when he got concussed, which he had revealed recently was because Vince, the last second, told him that it was time for him to end the streak, even though he was supposed to win that day.
Although it's funny, someone had made this quip on Facebook, and it made me laugh about it. He's like, "And the Undertaker's retired until some Saudi prince says no."
Yeah, until they need the money, he's retired, and they need the money now. But they thought this was going to be a big boost to their pay-per-views and their subscriptions. I doubt it.
Yeah,
because any fan that's tangentially interested that doesn't watch their wrestling anymore is going to wait till somebody records their screen and puts a copy up on YouTube for everybody to see on Twitter.
Yeah,
walking out. And
the official YouTube for WWE is usually about a week or two behind anyway, so you're going to see it for free anyway.
Yep.
So, I mean, ultimately, you and I stopped watching. Hell, you were the person who was the big catalyst behind me canceling WWE Network, and I don't miss it.
Yeah, I still occasionally watch AEW, but it's become a train wreck. It's another case of they were supposed to be coming out saying that they were like sports based and being more realistic and all this, and now they have like Jericho singing show tunes and falling into pools of orange juice. And like, I'm like, what the hell are they doing? They're being worse at being WWE than WWE is. Stop doing that. The only thing that's good about watching them is they still have crowds because they're in Florida, and Florida people are stupid and don't care if they get sick. So if we have fans in Florida, sorry, but your state says it's okay for people to gather like that. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah. Please stop being Florida, for the love of Christ.
Florida, stop doing Florida. Just please stop for a bit. I worry about you because you are nice people, except for the ones on meth at Walmart.
Although I did see, and this is totally unrelated to anything, but I saw this on Facebook this week. And I don't know how current this story is, but it was a guy in Florida. He saw an alligator eat a puppy or put a puppy in its jaws. So this guy went out, punched the alligator, and wrestled the puppy out of the alligator's mouth.
That's
Florida did okay.
It could have been Louisiana as well. Because, well, no, in Louisiana, we would have gone up to them and then now punched him in the face and pulled that get apart. That's how he would have done it.
And then cooked it. It's
in Louisiana. He would have wrestled them gator, and then he would have made friends with them and walked him around on a leash. That's how they do it.
It's true. Now that we've played into that stereotype.
Yes, there we go.
So that is going to do it.
Should we get an Alabama man next? No, we don't want to offend all of our American listeners.
We love you all.
Yes,
so we're going to take a break here on This Week in Geek. And Alex, what are we going to listen to right now?
Well, let's see. Let's flip a coin. How about we go with the SXFI Trio earbuds.
Okay, so we will be listening to that right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman, joined with Alex the Producer, and let's take a listen.
I talked about the Creative SXFI gamer USB-C headset on the last episode that we put out of Turtle Treasure, and for this main show, I wanted to talk about something that I've been taking with me to and from appointments that I've had with doctors, getting groceries, and with family, and that's the Creative SXFI Trio that I was sent. It is I'll say this right now, it's the first USB-C earbuds that I've received that actually sound good. There have been others out there that are more expensive that I didn't want to try, or in some cases, as part of the media, you'll send out requests to see whether or not you can check out a product when it comes out. A lot of the cheaper Chinese ones, you'd ask and they'd say, oh, what's it for? Review. They'd be like, oh, well, we'll give it to you to promote. And it's like, well, no, we want to review them. We're not going to promote something if we can't try them and actually stand behind them. And a lot of times when you do deal with smaller companies like that, they'll say no, and if they say no, they want you just to promote it. That means that they're probably not good. Well, that's not the case with Creative. Creative's like, here, review sample, check them out, see what you think. And I went, okay. And the entire technology brand that they have with this new SXFI, they've got 23 different awards from CES based on the technology in them. So we've reviewed a few in the past, and I was like, okay, well, let's give the earbuds a try, because that's something that's most interesting to me. It was surprising in that the cable is a heavy gauge. We're talking the thicker sort of braided cabling that you'd find on like a thick charging cable. Not quite as thick as that, because there are two strands going to the center for the I guess the control center, and then it goes out to the USB-C, but a lot thicker than I've ever had on earbuds before. And I thought it was going to be very obtrusive and just problematic moving around, that it might be scratchy, and it wasn't after a fair bit of use. And I was worried it would be too heavy and pull them out of your ears. Well, that wasn't the case. It is by far the best build quality I've seen on earbud cabling ever. I've never experienced something that thick that is usually it's rubbery and cheap, or it's braided, but again, could fray. These are pretty tough. So it's got a decent enough length that you can connect it to your phone or other device that's USB-C and put it in your pocket. Perhaps not in your pants pocket if you got lower pockets, but overall, it's a decent enough length that you could extend if you wanted to. It comes with a USB-C to A adapter, so you can plug it into any old device, computer that'll work with it. I tried it in a few different configurations, mostly with my phone and with computer. I haven't tried it with gaming per se as like a dedicated gaming system, but based on previous Creative devices, it should work on the PlayStation platform. I'm not really entirely sure if it'll do that on Xbox. I believe Nintendo Switch it might, if you put an extension cord into the dock. That sometimes happens. I'll have to test that later on. But I do know that it works plugging in to the Google Stadia controller, because they added that feature for all USB-C devices because they have their own USB-C headsets. And if you're a Stadia person, especially if you took advantage of that, was pre-ordering. Some companies were giving them away for free, but pre-ordering Cyberpunk on Stadia gave you one of their founders kits or their premium kit, which I think comes with the white or black controller, something like that. I have the blue one because I was a founder, but it works surprisingly well there. This also is paired with the technology for your phone. If you have their app, take pictures of your ear canal. It will attune the soundscaping, which, again, a lot of times can be kind of weird. I'm not a big fan of pseudo 3D in quotes, but even when that's off, it will still use that, set them up, tune the driver so that even when the like surroundscaping is turned off, you'll have a better stereo profile for the pressure and shape of your ear canal. It comes with a wide variety, wider than I've ever seen, of sizes of ear cushions. Usually I have to go with the largest size. Well, the two largest sizes here, I think the largest being, was it 15 or 16 millimeter, was actually too big for my ears. I'm like, wow, somebody has bigger ear canals than I do. So I had to go with the default with the one ear and went with one size up for the other. And in doing that, it was pretty amazing. I wore them for hours and hours on my computer. On my phone, it already sounded good. But I actually plugged it into my computer and listened to my high-res audio for, I think it was like 6 or 7 hours straight. And in doing that, I never once felt like I was wearing earbuds. It actually, for the first time ever, sounded as good as medium level, like on the ear. Not necessarily like the big cans, the high-end audiophile stuff, but if you wanted to compare them to like a good set of like $50 to $75, maybe even $100, like wired, even entry-level like Audio-Technica ones that are just good cans like that. But what's crazy is that these are like at $130. They're earbuds that give the quality out of headphones that are 5-10 times larger in circumference. Like the drivers are so tiny, but they put out the same audio fidelity as something that's like a full-size ear cup, which was kind of crazy to me. Also interesting, this is the first sound device I've ever owned that when you plugged it in through USB, even my Creative, I have an older Sound Blaster Creative external, I guess it's called the USB HD device that I use for my microphone to plug into and my headphones, and I also, mostly because it also has a phono preamp jack in there, so I can back up and listen to my records through it. Well, that more expensive full-size device is 24-bit, 96 kilohertz. This was, I think it was 36-bit, 192 kilohertz is what it came up with on the computer, and I could verify that changing it did change the sound of the audio. So we're talking like high-end DAC built into it, and Windows detected it right off the bat, and I could get full quality out of there. So I'm putting on my my Blu-ray audio through it, my lossless surround audio. It's mixed down to stereo, but turning on the surround setting on it, you can trick Windows into thinking it's surround. And I was getting 5.1 staging through these two little earbuds that blew me away. Like, and this is no joke. This is not a sales pitch or anything. I was really surprised with it. I don't know if I can go back to using wired, like traditional jack headsets where when I would go outside, I would prefer usually to use a cheaper headset, but because they usually, even at like $20 or $30, would sound better than USB-C earbuds or wireless ones. I think if I'm going to be listening to music, like really listening, and I'm on the go, I might just have to take the USB-C headset from here because there's nothing like it at that size, and everything fits into like a little rubberized carrying pouch that they give you, and I could just throw that in my backpack. And when I'm outside, maybe it's going to be rough and tumble or the weather's not great, I might use a cheapy pair of headphones. But then when I want to go sit down and listen to something, these SXFI trios are beyond anything else out there on the market, especially considering I've seen earbuds like this advertised at $300 or $400, And I was like, really? For earbuds? Especially now, if you can get these things for $120 or $130, like it's a no-brainer. So if you're somebody who wants good quality audio, but really, strapped for space and you don't want to have to carry around big cans anywhere with you, the Creative XFi Trio must buy audiophile on a budget, really.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
All right, folks, strap in, grab a helmet because it's gonna get weird. We are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net's Weird News. All right, so this first story comes courtesy of One News, and Sex Pistols star Johnny Rotten bitten by a flea after rescuing squirrels. Johnny Rotten, real name John Lydon, has been bitten by a flea on his penis. The Sex Pistols rocker has been attacked by the small parasitic bugs which have left itchy bites all over his body, including his nether regions. He says, I looked down there this morning at my willy and there's a fucking flea bite on it. And there's another one on the inside of my leg. John, 64, endured his flea bite after he befriended a bunch of squirrels at his Venice Beach home in Los Angeles. And he has said he's taken to smothering himself in Vaseline to ease his discomfort because he doesn't want to blame the poor squirrels. He added, the bites, wow, last night was murder because of it. The itching too. It's such a poxy thing to get caught on. The only way around it, because I'm not going to blame the poor squirrels, is the Vaseline my legs. I just hope they don't get the wrong idea. The Anarchy in the UK hitmaker, who's also known by his stage name Johnny Rotten, is also noted he's been spending a lot of money.
Hitmaker, one hit.
So that's the only song of theirs I know.
I think they did like a God Save the Queen, or they did another.
London Falling Down, or is that
no?
That's
no, you're probably thinking of the Clash doing a lot of the hit songs. Yeah, they were basically Sex Pistols were known for two things: that one song and that Sid and this, was it like Murder Suicide or something of Sid, the bassist,
something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know a lot of my rock and roll history.
Well, there was that movie Sid and Nancy that Gary Oldman did, based on him.
So it says he's been spending a lot of money on keeping his new furry friends happy. He explained in his new book, I could be wrong, I could be right. I'm determined.
Well, I'll tell you right now, you're wrong. You're keeping squirrels as friends.
Hey, I've got squirrel friends, but they haven't bitten my dick yet. So
you be okay with them riding up your pants and biting your dick?
No, but I do have a squirrel story involving a friend of mine. So he explains in his new book.
Oh boy.
He says, I'm determined to keep my squirrel friends independent, There's no petting. If they want to nudge up, that's fine. But I know it's for a peanut and not because I'm lovely. Why do they love me? For the food I buy for them. I'm definitely spending a lot of money on these little fuckers. Now, my squirrel story goes all the way back to the mid-2000s. I'm hanging out with my friend John, and we're outside in his backyard fighting with wooden bokken and bow staffs, and we're just fucking around, having a grand old time playing the Highlander soundtrack while fighting with wooden swords. Because, as teenagers and young adults are ought to go do, it's a rite of passage, And yes. I remember a squirrel dropping on his head and him going, ah! And like screaming. Another squirrel story I have, this one comes from my friend Liam. He was out in his backyard shooting with his .22 rifle or something. So as rural Ontario ought to go do. And he told me the squirrel died of a heart attack because he shot near the squirrel, didn't hit the squirrel, but hit near it with a rifle round. The squirrel died screaming. And I know that's a terribly cruel thing to laugh at, but the mental image is just, it's too much. But just the fact that these poor little creatures, but in more wholesome squirrel stories involving me and Blair, befriended squirrels on our property this past summer, where me and Blair would sit out in my wheelchair out front of our building. And we had Dumbledore, Theon Greyjoy, Snape, John Cena, and I think there was one more. I don't remember off the top of my head, though. Blair, was there one more squirrel? Snape, Dumbledore, Theon, and John Cena. So there was 2 gray and 2 black.
Now here I have another question for you based
Yes.
on Squirrel Watch, because we went on Squirrel Watch when I visited.
Yes.
Is the dildo still there?
Did I ever talk about this on the show?
No, but I did threaten to pick up the dildo and drop it down the back of your shirt while you're in your wheelchair. And normally where you get very angry, you went very calmly, turned your head and said, "Please don't, I'll never get it out."
Okay, so story time, children. So where I live in Guelph, it's a pretty nice neighborhood. But one day I'm out in my wheelchair with Blair, and we're going to the local Tim Hortons, which is just about a block over. And we stop, and there's this tree right by our building. And on the street, under the tree, placed ever so perfectly, is this fluorescent green dildo. Just sitting there, innocently, as much as a dildo could be, just sitting there
Yes,
under the tree.
yes. I mean, it's just an innocent. If there were more trees, I would have called it a forest dildo, and it would have been a gift, for the public. But it was under one tree, right?
Yeah, it's almost like it was birthed by the tree, and like, oh, it's that time of year, folks, when dildos fall out of trees.
Well, there are many people out there that wish they grew on trees.
But it's so weird. So it was there on the ground for 5 weeks. It sat under the tree, and this area is heavily trafficked by the public. There's a crossing guard there.
There's a lot of children that walk by when they go to school.
Yeah, and I got to say, there's got to be some uncomfortable questions that have come up during all this. And then one day...
It looks like a candy dispenser. Yeah, go ahead, touch it.
Yeah, no. And then one day, as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. And I said to a friend of mine, I'm like, well... It's migrated now. It's off to spawn new ones.
It takes a village. It's a community library.
Community dildo.
Yes, it's a community dildo. You'll find when spring comes, it'll be deposited near another tree for the next person in need, and we'll move on from there. Yeah, and we saw it, and I was like, "Oh, you want me to pick that up and drop it down the back of your shirt?" And you first you said, "I will be so incredibly mad," and then you said, "Please don't," because you realized that if I could get to it quick enough and somehow drop it down your shirt before you switch into high gear on your chair and move really fast, it could have happened.
I'd have to fall out of my chair or rest with it in my back until I got home. That's gross.
And here's the thing, I'm in my mid-30s. If I was in my mid-20s, I wouldn't have asked. I would have just done it.
Yeah.
10 years ago, Alex would have just done that. Hell, 4 years ago, Alex would have just done that and laughed and laughed and laughed. And you would have been so mad, and your whole family would have been mad. And I would have been laughing and laughing. And then 10 years later, I'd be thinking about it, talking with you if we became friends again. And I'd still be laughing because that's who I am.
No, you're a terrible person, but you're also not wrong.
But I have matured enough that I can just think about how funny it would have been doing it.
Not going to lie, the Mike of 10 years ago might have seriously thought about it too.
Like you have a grabber. I could have just grabbed a grabber. We could have picked it, and we could have done something really fun, like fling it up onto somebody's balcony above you. Because think about it, you flick it up onto their balcony, then they randomly go out, some old person or whatever, or even better if it's a family that has kids, they open up the balcony to go sit on their balcony. They sit on the balcony, they're like, "What's this, mommy?" And they're like, "Where'd you get that?" On the balcony. And then there's a huge fight between mother and father, or even worse, they start to panic and go, "How the hell did that get there? Did somebody come in our apartment?" There's so many horrible things and situations that would have created that it would have been so worth it.
It's like a South Park episode that writes itself. It really
especially
is.
if you can throw it really good and it doesn't like make any noise and it lands on like the 3rd floor. And they just open up the balcony like, the fuck is that?
speaking of things that are just...
I'm sorry, I'm evil.
You are very evil. So speaking of things that have randomly shown up in mysterious places, this story comes courtesy of CNN.com. A tall, silver shining metal monolith was discovered in southeast Utah, which prompted theories of alien placement and drew determined hikers to its secret location, has now disappeared, according to the state's Bureau of Land Management on Saturday. The monument was removed by a quote-unquote unknown party sometime Friday night, the agency said in a Facebook post. We have received credible reports that the illegally installed structure referred to as the monolith has been removed from the BLM public lands, the post said. The BLM did not remove the structure, which is considered private property. We've got to go look at it. The monolith was first discovered on November 18th by officers of the Utah's Department of Public Safety Aero Bureau. They were flying by helicopter helping the Division of Wildlife Resources count bighorn sheep in southeastern Utah when they spotted something seemed right out of 2001: A Space Odyssey. One of the biologists spotted it, and we just happened to fly directly on top of it, the pilot Brett Hutchings told CNN affiliate KSL. He was like, whoa, turn around, look. And I was like, what's that? There's this thing back there. We've got to go look at it. And there it was. In the middle of the red rock was a shiny silver metallic monolith sticking out of the ground. Hutchings guessed it was between 10 to 12 feet high, and it didn't look like it was randomly dropped to the ground, he told KSL, but rather looked like it had been planted.
As you die over there.
Yeah, clearly the aliens are trying to get me.
They don't want you to know.
I'm assuming it's some new wave artist or something. Like, somebody was like a big 2001 Space Odyssey fan, he said, referencing the scene in the 1968 film where a black monolith appears. Still, it appears it is illegal to install structures or art without authorization on public lands, no matter what planet you're from, said a Utah DPS in a statement released on Monday. Where is it? The location of the monolith was not disclosed because authorities didn't want curiosity seekers to become stranded in the remote landscape and need to be rescued. But of course, that didn't stop some. Several people had already successfully located the monolith tucked in a red rock slot canyon south of Moab. I think that's how you pronounce it. The trek involved driving in the darkness over rocky terrain and verifying GPS coordinates, according to 3 people who went to see it. At least one explorer got lost at first, but the trip was worth it, they said, even if the monolith wasn't the work of aliens. David Suber may be among the first to view the monolith in person. The coordinates to the monolith were circulating on Reddit, but none of the users could confirm they were correct. Suber volunteered to find out. The coordinates were indeed correct, and Suber eagerly shared the results of his visit with 200 Reddit users who flooded his inbox. Among his findings, the monolith wasn't magnetic or solid. He said it sounded like a cardboard box when he knocked on it. He also shared step-by-step instructions for the drive out to the monolith. At the end of the day, extraterrestrial or made through artistic expression, the monolith provided an opportunity for thousands of people to rally behind something positive again, he told CNN in an email. It was a good escape from all the negativity we've experienced in 2020. My guess is this is probably some new age art installation.
Yeah, or the idea behind it being representative of, like, maybe we're at a point where human evolution either takes a huge step forward or doesn't, because that's sort of what the monolith was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, it's so weird, and I'm just wondering how you get it out there, because supposedly the hike is quite difficult. Now, obviously, if you take, like, a truck out there, you could do it, even a private helicopter. And I guess if it's hollow, you could fly this thing out there, drop it on the ground, and then get
drones, son.
Drones? Yeah, like, there aren't impossible ways to do this, but in the middle of nowhere, what are the odds? You know what I mean?
People are bored now.
I guess. I mean, people were wondering if it's like, I think there's an artist called Banksy. They're like, it couldn't be him.
Now, Banksy is him or her, right?
Yeah, we don't know.
Banksy's whole deal is street art on, like, side of buildings, and then people, like, cut out the side of the building.
That's really cool, though. I mean,
right? Like it's like street art, graffiti style, modern art. It's not that kind of. It's not sculpting. It's not. It's not that kind of a piece. It's always like paintings or spray painting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so strange. When I saw the video of it, I couldn't believe how big it was. I mean, the video really doesn't do it justice until you see pictures of this thing, because this thing is fucking huge.
So then I'll bet you it was a chopper.
It would have to be, just based on weight.
So all they'd have to do is go through the records of private, like you have to file a flight plan no matter where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll never see a helicopter unless it's a government helicopter in, not having a record with somebody of where it was going.
Unless they really did something seriously illegal.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I mean, I doubt they have the money to do that for this purpose. But still, interesting.
Yeah. So moving on to our last story this week. This one comes courtesy of NME.com, but there is a new Animaniacs show out, though getting it in Canada is troublesome, but not impossible. The Animaniacs episode has been taken down after accidentally featuring a sex hotline. Fake phone number in a Animaniacs episode is actually a real and goes to a sex hotline is so very Animaniacs, it's honestly beautiful.
It's like, well, Rocco's Modern Life, he worked at a sex hotline.
Yep. I mean, it's so weirdly meta, it kind of works. So an episode of Animaniacs was taken down temporarily after featuring a phone number for a sex hotline. Episode 6 of the reboot during the Pinky and the Brain segment featured a TV advert for Brain including a telephone number that was supposedly fictional, but fans on social media pointed out it connects to a real number. I see that the phone number in the Pinky in the Brain episode of episode 6 of the Animaniacs reboot has been changed thanks to an incident where the previous phone number was an actual phone number for a sex hotline. One fan tweeted, "No, I'm not kidding." The phone number.
Did they forget to put the 555 as the area code?
No, it is. So
wait, how did they get that? That's supposed to be reserved.
Okay, so the actual phone number is 1-800, which is real. So that's a total number. And the phone number is 555-0199.
Okay, their problem was that was a boneheaded mistake.
Yeah.
You can't use 555 as a regular area code number, but because it's a paid number, like a toll-free number, it's no longer an area code. The area code is technically 800, and then it switches it to a different system. So they made the mistake thinking they could do that. They should have just call 555-0189.
So according to this, the episode was quickly restored to Hulu overnight after editing out the phone number in question, but several still took to social media responding to the amusing error. Fake phone number in Animaniacs episode is actually real and goes to a sex hotline is so very Animaniacs, it's honestly beautiful. One person tweeted.
It's on Hulu, so I mean, it's not like kids are going to get it.
It gets better. Another person said, "Okay, but the Animaniacs reboot episode being pulled because they put a phone number of a sex hotline is so fucking funny because a team checks to make sure it was fine and they knew what it was and it's by executives. I love it because there's no way that just went out to animators and they're like, yeah, it's fine."
It's possible because they automatically assumed that the 555 would be fine, but you never see it in movies where it's a 1-800 number with 555.
It's rare.
It's almost always a local number, 555, because there is no local 555 area code.
The only shows recently that I can think that have had phone numbers that go to funny things is I know when Constantine was on the air and then in Legends of Tomorrow, if John ever pulls out his card, that phone number works. The Flash has had a phone number that works. In fact, the Flash is, if you called the cell number on screen, occasionally that would ring on set. And a cast member or somebody who was using that phone would pick up. Another notable example is the Goldbergs on ABC You can call the Goldbergs answering machine. It never accepts messages, but you can hear Jeff Garland screaming at you for like a minute.
Oh, it'll scream and then say that it's the rest of the phone is full or whatever.
Yeah, he's like, "Hello, moron, you've reached the Goldbergs," or something like that.
They do that for movies a lot more often.
Mm-hmm. I know Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it for a couple of different things. So it's nice to see them do that when companies will spend the extra maybe couple $100 to put up a fake phone number for like a year.
Sometimes gaming companies will do it too, where it'll be like part of a bigger world meta where it's like you see a number scribbled, throughout a wall or something or in a bathroom in a game. You call that number and it will give you a tip on how to like unlock a secret in the game.
There was one very famous one, and I've only heard the recording. I don't know how you get to it, but there was one recorded by the original Kratos for like God of War.
Oh yeah.
And he like chastises you. He's like, "I don't know how you got this number, mortal," or some bullshit like that. And it goes on like this.
Wasn't there one, was it for Watch Dogs or was it some other one that was maybe an espionage type game? And I think there was a number, like you follow the breadcrumbs online, you call a number, and then it gives you part of a decoder thing or something.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure what it was.
It was either right around the time that the PS4 came out or right before it.
I like it when some companies do viral marketing. There was one that came out a number of years ago. The marketing was more clever than the movie itself, but it was Cloverfield. Cloverfield had this thing called Slusho, and Slusho was a drink in the world of Cloverfield that somehow tied into the monsters and deep sea drilling or something. And there was a website and there was hidden code on the website, but that would lead breadcrumbs all over the internet. And there was a game I played in the early 2000s. I can't remember what the fuck it's called now, but it was this augmented reality game. And it was really cool. And unfortunately, 9/11 happened and it got taken down. But you had to be at a certain phone in New York City on a certain day of week at a certain time. And that phone would ring. And it would give you the next part of this clue. And it was this huge game. And I wish I could remember what the fuck it was called. Well, but I thought it was really cool.
I know that it's, like I said, it's been done for games. Or sometimes you call a number and it starts you on the scavenger hunt and it does like, what's that called? Geocaching?
Oh yeah. Those are fun.
Where you jump around and like, and you can like scavenger hunt and there might be like 1,000 of them spread across America. And once you get all of it, it creates part of the puzzle, like a Zodiac puzzle you got to uncover. And, some of the best marketing campaigns have been that, like, and you think like, oh, that seems rather big. A lot of times they can get away with doing those for like $1 million. You're like, that sounds like a lot of money. It's not a lot of money when you consider the global scale of some of those campaigns. And I almost wish that more games and movies would use the phone number thing, because what does it cost to keep that toll-free number running? What, like maybe $10,000 for a whole year?
It's gotta be less than that, I'm guessing.
I mean,
and it's gotta be built into marketing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's, if you got $1 million marketing budget, why not just get a phone number, get a toll-free number, have something funny, or you've had ones where you could call it and you'd have to give it like your phone number, and then it would call you back, and you could set it up so that could be your ringtone or whatever by just like when you receive the call, recording what they say to you. One
of my favorite things, and I abused the hell out of this. So this was Mike back in 2006 before I went off to college. This was the summer of Snakes on a Plane, and you could have this website, and if you entered your phone number or a friend's phone number and you put in a name, it would give you a list of commonly said names like Mary, John, Frank, Sarah, whatever, right? So Sam Jackson would be like, "Yo, Sarah, this is Sam Jackson. I'm inviting you to go see Snakes on a Plane on motherfucking Friday, July, whatever. Now, if you don't get your ass in that seat, I'm going to bust a cap in your ass or whatever." And it went on like this. And I harassed my friends with this. It was like, "Mike, is this you?" I'm like, "Why would you assume it's me?" Because it's Sam Jackson, it's technology, and you're stupid. I'm like, "Well, guilty as charged." I did that for an entire summer, and I was so annoyed. They're like, Mike, I know that's Sam Jackson, and I'm not answering the phone.
Here's top 10 phone numbers from a list I found for video games that were real phone numbers. For Fallout 4, there was 1-888-4 Vault Tech.
Oh, cool.
There was Infamous Second Son had 1-844 Help DUP. Secret messages from God of War, like you said. WWE 2K17 had 1-844 Suplex C. Alan Wake had 1-857-239-7601, which sounds more like a real number. Kentucky Route Zero had one. Dying Light, Saints Row 4, Hotline Miami. So yeah, even for smaller titles like Hotline Miami, it's not that expensive to have a fun tie-in that can get you some PR buzz. So I can see why Animaniacs did it. I doubt that they did it knowingly that there was that, because they are trying to market it to kids as well. If it was on HBO, like I would be like, okay, but it is on Hulu and they were trying to market it to kids. So I feel like they're like, let's make it a number. And they're like, a 1-800 number is a fake toll-free number. So we'll just put a 555 because it's not real. They probably didn't know that 555 can be used for toll-free.
Yeah, I can't think of any instances where I've ever run into it in my personal life, but kind of amusing though. So anyway,
Michael, have you tried calling it? It's a toll-free number.
I haven't tried it yet. No, I would imagine it's probably disconnected.
Do you think they would? They probably got way more traffic than they ever got before. They probably want it on there.
I don't know. I guess we will. If you remind me, there'll be an update to this story next week.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's toll free, it's not going to cost you anything. Just give it a ring and see if it connects. Not now on the air, but like maybe afterwards, just to see if it does.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News and the Weird News this week. So we're going to take a final break here on the show. And what you're going to hear is Alex's review of the latest piece of technology from Roku. We will be back, guys, right here, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Last fall, I went out to a Roku press event in Toronto and reviewed their most recent outpouring of devices, including the Streaming Stick Plus, the Roku Express, and so on. And this year went by, and with everything that happened with COVID, a lot of companies put out very little products or new things. But I noticed that a new product had just shipped out the last month or two. So I reached out to Roku to see if it was a chance of us checking it out. And they sent over the Roku Streambar and their Roku Premiere. We've talked about them on our Black Friday deals and how everything's sort of on sale for them. And I'll talk about the Roku Premiere, I think, a little later this coming week. In that it's probably going to be the device that you'll use to get, whatever, dumb TV in quotes you have or monitors hooked up to the net that's 4K ready and so on. And I'm going to test that out, a little later. But I wanted to really focus on the Roku Streambar because I don't think there's anything else in the market like it. Not from the Fire Sticks or even like. I don't believe that there's something equivalent exactly from Google using like Android TV or like the Chinese knockoffs, like even Xiaomi, I don't think has one. This is the first time I've seen a full-featured soundbar that has the built-in streaming capabilities of a streaming box. So it right now, as of this recording, is on sale for the next few days for 150 Canadian. I don't know, exactly if the sale is exactly the same in the States, but take that into account. Regular price being $189, so it's $40 off, and it's about judging by it, was it 12, 15, well, maybe 15, 16 inches across. It is a soundbar, not one of those super high end ones that have like a subwoofer, but it doesn't need it. I'll tell you right now. It has 4 speakers in it that are tuned to. I would say amplify the mid-range a little bit, the speaking voice range. Low end is still very crispy and just it bounces and it doesn't distort. It doesn't give you this rattling shake, but it has a very clear, like very well-formed fidelity. High end, it doesn't sound tinny at all, but you can make out all the little cymbals and hi-hats and everything. And where it really shines, like I said, is the mid-range for vocals. So the experience of hooking it up is you take it out. On the back of it, there is a USB port that can be used to connect, whatever you want to view in their player. So you can connect like home movies and pictures and music and so on. And depending on the app that you use, you'll be able to access that. There's also a optical input, so a Toslink optical cable, and that is used for if your TV does not support ARC, audio return channel over HDMI for an older HDMI TV. So something that, you might have this an old 720p TV. In my case, I tested it here at home, but I will probably be bringing it to my grandmother's to test on hers because she has a Sony television, a 32-inch, I believe it's a 720p panel, but it supports 1080p inputs. It's one of those weird ones where it'll take the 1080p signal and then it's like super sampling. It just projects it or puts it out at 720p. She got that TV in, I think, 2008 or 9, maybe 2010 at the latest. And for her, that was a big purchase because prior to that, she had used 24-inch Sony Trinitrons. I think they were Trinitrons. She had Sony TVs for the better part of 20 years and was using a one of those converter boxes when they first came out where it took a digital antenna signal and would convert it down into analog because it was an old CRT TV she had. So she had years ago purchased this TV, and to her it's the best TV in the world. Colors starting to go a little bit. I would love to find a TV replacement for her, but she's like, I don't want to spend money. I don't need it. It looks perfect. Look how crisp and clear this is. Yes, Oma. Yes, for your TV, it's clean and clear. It's not great, but it is a dumb TV in that there's no built-in streaming capabilities because that didn't exist when she had the TV. What we had previously been using is a Sony Blu-ray player, an older one that had Netflix built in, but Netflix no longer works on that because they haven't had an update for the player. So for the sake of this, it's kind of the perfect device is what I'm getting at for the elderly where they don't necessarily want to upgrade their TV or they don't have a TV that can do it, but they also have a LCD. And in her case, she has an LCD that you can barely hear the audio out of because it's so, old and tinny, and her hearing's not so great. So we had been using computer speakers hooked up to the TV through the headphone jack. So this is, the kind of thing that would replace that entire situation. So I wanted to see if it would work, first of all, at home. It's got 4 speakers, as I said, 2 front-facing and 2 sort of off to the sides that will then bounce off of your walls and fill your room with stereo. You can put on like a simulated surround through it because it has built-in Dolby processing. But it's got an HDMI in the back, an optical. It does support ARC, like I said. It uses its own power bar. It doesn't use like USB power. It's got an actual DC jack and a long enough cable that you can run it several feet away. So you can run it down behind the TV and everything. It'll sit just fine under most TVs, especially the smaller ones like that. And it has room-filling audio. I was really surprised. So my experience was hooked it up, signed it up into my account. It updated automatically, got the newest version of everything on there. And then it played an intro video showing off what it could do that I've not seen on Roku devices before, where it just showed off, here's the audio, here's the settings. It was a very straightforward tutorial that I guess, again, I almost feel like this is being targeted towards the elderly or people that have never used a smart TV or smart device or gaming system or, maybe aren't on any of that. But this is like maybe going to be their first cord cutting device. Like, hey, they've been using cable TV box for years on a TV that doesn't have any stereo system hooked up. And now you got rid of the cable box and you want to upgrade the audio, but you can't either afford or upgrade all of the stereo equipment to get like a $500 or $1,000 surround set or anything, or it's not needed. But you might want a sound bar. That's what this is. It turns pretty much any TV in any room into a decent sounding audio system. I did hook it up, updated it, played their little tutorial, exited it, and then I wanted to load into all my different devices to watch things. I ended up loading up Tubi TV and playing Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because that was the #1 video at the time because of American Thanksgiving, and it's one of my favorite movies. And it's an older one that has a surround track, but it's not originally mixed for that. The voices were very pronounced and very clear. And I only cranked it up to maximum I put it up to 50% of the volume, and it was so loud without distorting that I had to turn it down quickly because it was getting late at night and my neighbors would have been upset. And I'm somebody who has, a 5.1 surround set. Like I've got 150 watt speakers each, and with a 100 watt subwoofer. Like I've got a booming system if I want to, and this was rivaling that. Not necessarily in the fullness and the huge dynamic range that I get out of my surround set, but I also spent $100 per speaker. So I was looking at, I have 5 speakers at $100 a piece plus a $100 subwoofer, so $600, and this was getting as loud without distorting, which was surprising. So it also has settings that you go in, and it has like clear audio, they call it, or clear voice, and there's different settings for that. And what it does is it closes the dynamic range a bit, so the lows become a little quieter, the highs become a little quieter and less pronounced, and the centers gets amplified, specifically the frequencies that the regular human voice speaks at, the mid-range of that. So people that have a deeper voice, it'll be louder without distorting. People that have a higher voice, it'll be a little quieter, a bit lower without distorting. And I could see people that have, tinnitus or inner ear problems being able to have that setting on for pretty much anything and listen and have it clear. It also has audio options to cut the bass, increase the bass, cut the treble, increase the treble, or normal. So lots of simple settings, all from one remote. It does have a voice remote. It's pretty simple, easy to follow. Right on the front of it, it also includes some buttons for Disney Plus, Netflix, and the Canadian version has a Roku channel button and a global TV button, which I've not seen on one of these before. So a dedicated global button. So this is, again, I'm thinking marketing towards the older people that you want something simple that just works with it, and volume control on the side. It has a power button. The power button doesn't turn off the device because as it's a Roku, it's always sort of on. But you can configure it if you've got ARC on your TV, and ARC is configured. Pressing the power button will turn off the TV. So if you set your TV to, let's say, HDMI 1, which is maybe whatever ARC is on, and you calibrate it through the system, you won't need to use the TV remote ever again unless you have to change inputs to another device. But for somebody who might want just this as a streaming box for everything, you could press the power button. It would turn on your TV, go right to Roku. You can even have it set to go into the last channel you used, and bam, you're ready to go. There's all those free TV apps on there, some paid ones. I loaded up Spotify, and with Spotify on, it was really good. It was like one of the higher end Bluetooth speakers I've used before. That in itself was about $180, and it was that good. So what you're getting is about $200 worth of a speaker in general, plus built-in 4K HDR Roku. And it has, built-in wireless, and I'm not sure if you can use Ethernet through an adapter. I would assume maybe Ethernet through the USB port, but I don't have a generic Ethernet to USB to try. But the settings are in the actual OS to select Ethernet, so I'm assuming that's what you would do, is you could use that either as an input for media, or you could use it as a dedicated Ethernet device. So if you were somebody who wanted to use it on your main TV and you wanted to have a dedicated connection to get 4K at the best quality possible, you could do that. But as is, wireless range seemed great. Everything worked pretty well. I'm going to see about using it at, like I said, at my grandma, my Oma's house. And, if it turns out that it's a better fit for her, then, she'll probably end up using it. If not, I was going to use it at my desk and just keep using it and testing more and more features with it, because I was really surprised that nobody else has a device like this. And I think if you're looking even more so than just for yourself, or it would be great for a dorm room when school resumes again, having it for a kid's bedroom. But I think the sweet spot for this is going to be, let's get grandma, let's get grandpa into the 21st century.
Hello, this is Mole Man in the morning. Good Mole Man to you. Today, part 4 of our series of the agonizing pain in which I live every day.
All right, guys. Well, that is the kind of show it has been here this week on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Certainly took a different direction than what we would normally expect from, hey, here's an answer Mike's been looking for his entire frigging life, to the death of Darth Vader, to, as Alex might put it, forest dildos, and squirrels.
They're the gift that keeps on giving.
They really are. So it's been an adventure here on the show. Once again, big thanks to the people who have supplied us with the review materials for this show. Nintendo for Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. We also took a look at those earbuds. We also got to thank Roku for sending out some stuff. And we will have one more regular show, which is the TWIG kind of regular show. That'll be airing next Sunday. I am planning on recording a TWIG Sunday Funnies with JT. I would have recorded it in November, but school kind of got me, so it'll be released in December. There might be 2 TWIG Sunday Funnies in December. I haven't decided yet. This holiday is not working out the way that I want it to, but whatever. We are going to have our holiday gift guide on December 7th. We're going to record that a few days early. We're just going to give our partners a chance to send in some additional material. Hopefully you guys had a chance to pick up some cool stuff on Black Friday. Share some of your hauls. If you did pick up anything, the only piece of Black Friday shopping I did is I picked up Transformers Red Soundwave from Walmart, which is the next evolution of the Action Masters line. And I know he's a bit of a hard figure to come by, so I'm very, very thankful for that. And I did some Black Friday shopping for Christmas for Alex here and Liam. So
yay.
It'll be exciting.
For me, I didn't buy anything yet. Like, there's still Cyber Monday and Cyber Monday week. I might keep an eye out. So I can do some Christmas shopping maybe for other people. Maybe something will pique my interest. But I was also in disaster fixing mode. I went to my mom's to help hook up the internet last week. It was all working. And I get a call the next day, TV's not working. I'm like, oh. So we sort of narrowed it down by trial and error over the phone. And we think she has a bad HDMI cable. If it's not a bad HDMI cable, then it's a bad receiver. And if it's a bad receiver, then she's got to wait till after Christmas to get a new one. But I was able to take advantage of some Amazon Black Friday deals. And instead of paying $15 for one HDMI 2.0 cable that's 15 feet, I was able to get for $25 3 different ones that are all color-coded. So it was like less money than buying 2 of them regularly to get 3. So there's that. And to be safe, I got an optical cable because we can maybe have a workaround by hooking up to an older stereo system. So if you're in the market for cables and accessories right now are probably the cheapest they're going to be all year on Amazon for decent quality stuff. So you may not always think about it, but maybe in some cases a stocking stuffer can be like a cable upgrade.
Yeah, it never hurts.
Especially if you're looking to future-proof yourself, and you probably don't have a HDMI 2.1 8K TV or receiver because only very few exist. But the cables are out there, and right now some of them are like half price. So you could get yourself a cable and future-proof yourself that way. Right now, or even something as simple as batteries. Man, Amazon sells batteries. And a lot of times cheaper than everybody else. And right now it's even better sales. How many devices nowadays do you buy that just don't come with the batteries because they want to save money on shipping and packaging?
True. Yeah.
So it might be a good idea to stock up on some batteries. My last little tip for Cyber Monday.
So as always, folks, we do thank you for your patronage, for your patience, and just for listening to us on this journey. So coming up on the site this week, as of this recording, we are going to have a preview / impressions of Phoenix Rising. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, Immortals Phoenix Rising. If you're unsure of what that is, don't be alarmed. It's the formerly known as Gods and Monsters that Ubisoft, remember, changed their name midway through the summer.
So we will be Alex will be talking about that. We're going to have a prototype on that some point next week after the holiday gift guide. Also, we are going to have a review and discussion about Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Some of our experiences with that, both good and bad, because we are a little bit behind the ball, but I'm glad we did wait for this. So we will be talking about that later on today. And then we are going to be recording a couple more loose cannons before the end of the year with our friends at Vinegar Syndrome, I think, sent some stuff over.
Vinegar Syndrome, as well as a couple other of the indie boutique companies. Should be some interesting stuff that, for once, I always thought that I and you were like the B-movie kings. But then we started recording with Aaron and we found out he's a B-movie king, even more than us. And then, when we showed him which titles were sent, he goes, I've never seen or heard of any of them. And I went, ooh, this could be good.
So that should be good. So anyway, guys, be sure to keep it locked to ThisWeekInGeek.net as we continue to bring you the best and most entertaining geek content that we possibly can. Looking forward to doing a lot more in 2021. So guys, until next time for ThisWeekInGeek.net, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.